Welcome back, members of the King's Circle, to Cocktails with the King. I am Jonathan Notek, once again here with my partner, Jonathan Porter from the Chicago Prohibition Tours. And what do we got for him this week, John?
Well, we're going to get into his family life a little bit. And you know what? Let's just jump right into it when we head to the Loop and check out where Remus did his law training.
All right, well, we're not in the speakeasy anymore, so... What? I said we're not in the speakeasy anymore. What are we doing here?
That's right, we're at the Illinois College of Law, 25 East Jackson.
But it says the DePaul Center.
Yeah, it merged with the Illinois College of Law.
Oh.
So this is the building, though, 25 East Jackson.
For what?
Listen, at the age of 19, gets licensed as a pharmacist.
Right.
By 21, he's called doctor,
Yeah.
right? He's that optometrist.
Doctor,
gotcha.
Right.
At the age of 24, in 1904, he's going to pass the Illinois bar exam after he graduates law school right here.
Right.
And he's going to take on some of the biggest murder cases in Chicago. The reason he's doing this is because he wants to build his name up, not just in his community where he's that trusted pharmacist and doctor. Now he's taking on high-profile murder cases. He's making a name for himself here in Chicago.
I gotcha. So this is going to be what leads him to start really looking for that attention. This is going to be that thing that propels him eventually into almost superstardom, where he's gonna, because the writing's on the wall, right? I mean, we're still the early part of the 20th century, but this cry for prohibition, it's starting to get louder and louder and louder. The rural areas are starting to adopt it rather, and bring it in, and he's eventually going to end up defending some of these guys, and I think that's where the wheels start to turn in terms of how he can exploit this. Because let's be honest. One of his biggest mentors, right, is Clarence Darrow.
Yes.
Amazing lawyer, fantastic lawyer, particularly for civil liberties and rights and things of that nature. Really defending the little man, and he has that in him, but he's really more about the theatrics. I'm not saying he passed the bar.
Right. He's a genius.
Right. He passed the bar. He did the work, but he's the Johnny Cochran of his era.
He knows how to work the system.
Right.
I think that's a common theme that we keep learning with Remus.
And I think that this is going to be, in fact, I know that this is going to be the moment where he starts to realize this is a business opportunity. This is a place where I can really make something for myself.
If you think about it, it's never enough for him, right?
Okay.
At this point in his life, he's making $500,000 a year. That's 1920s money or early 20th
century
century
That's a lot of money now.
It's a lot of money now.
A ton of money back then.
It's like it's the equivalent of $6 million plus a year in today's standards. But like you mentioned, he's seeing business opportunities on the horizon. And it's difficult to put into words what the scope of his program would eventually become.
Yeah.
If you think of it in terms of Amazon, we tend to think of, oh, Amazon's just the biggest thing, the distribution. But it would be as if Amazon manufactured more than 50% of the goods that they were also delivering to your...
Right, because he's making the product eventually that he's going to deliver.
Owns the stuff and delivers the distribution. I mean, it's points on top of points.
Yeah.
All
right, you know what though? Here's the thing. This is amazing stuff as usual, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
For sure.
There's still a lot to talk about, including we're missing a huge factor in what makes him not only a big figure here in Chicago, but nationally renowned as well.
Well, what would that be?
Well, it's athletics, and we just got to take a short walk to talk about it. Let's go.
These things really work out that, in the downtown area, they're not that far.
Yeah, wasn't it a beautiful evening to take a walk downtown?
I mean, the heat finally let up, so it was almost like romantic out there.
I mean, I don't not love you.
Back to the Chicago Athletic Association.
Hand sanitizer?
Of course.
A huge part of what makes him not only famous here in Chicago, but famous almost nationwide, and it's because of this place right here. We've arrived. It's the Chicago Athletic Association. This is where he cashes in on his athletic ability. Now, when I say athlete, I'm not talking about the kind of athlete that we think of today. Okay. Not this chiseled Adonis kind of super freak.
I immediately think of an NBA player, right?
Perfect. Exactly. He's definitely not that. We've all seen the pictures. He is kind of freakishly strong, but what he really prides himself on is swimming. And in fact, that's how he makes his headlines with the Athletic Association. And that's the important thing too, is the best athletes, they didn't live here, they didn't play here, right? They weren't rich. To be a part of this club, you had to have money. You had to be rich. If you're a young student athlete, you don't have that. The other thing is, the major sports that we have today, they were in their fledgling sort of iterations back then. Baseball is 40 years old at this point.
It's tough to think of it like that, yeah.
Right? Football is not an established organization yet. The colleges have it, but there's no National Football League.
Right, 1920, right?
Companies that are playing against each other. In fact, these places would have played against each other.
Yeah, we're definitely not talking about the 85 Bears there, my friends.
No.
The Bears and Remus.
That's good stuff.
Real nice.
It's really much more of a you pay to play. Okay.
Okay.
But in his swimming athletic ability, he's going against guys half his age. And he's doing endurance swims in Lake Michigan, in the choppy ass waters of Lake Michigan. If you've ever swam in Lake Michigan, that can be difficult.
Not for
People
20
drown
years.
in there all the time.
Right.
In fact, someone just drowned there last week, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and he's this almost like superhuman who's treading water for 4 hours out there. In fact, refuses to quit, and a boat finally has to drag him in and pull him out of the water. So it's, you know, it's he's establishing himself now as not just this intelligent person, but also this athletic freak of nature as well.
So I assume he's like training inside this place.
Yeah,
He's
for
also
sure.
spending his nights socializing in here as well.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is like Chicago's elite.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this is where he's going to make a lot of his connections that oddly he's going to end up serving to later, including the speakeasy that was inside of this facility. He is more than likely the guy, through his connections at this building, that's going to provide the alcohol for this space.
The superior product.
The superior product.
Speaking of superior products. Hey everybody, the superior product I was talking about is right here. The Remus Repeal Reserve Series 4. Just came out this month. Caramel, caramel, caramel on the tongue. You're also going to finish with some oak tannins, but that heavy rye content in there really lets your tongue know that you're drinking a 100 proof whiskey. Highly recommend. Get out to the liquor store and try this one.
And now, back to the Chicago Athletic Association.
So private club members only? Does that mean we can't go in?
Well, not exactly. That thing around your neck isn't a fashion statement. It's COVID, unfortunately, and they are completely shut down at this point. But there is another entrance around the corner. We can maybe at least peek into the lobby and see some of the grandeur.
Let's go. I mean, it is a hotel now.
Remember when I saw the mailbox?
Oh, look, mailbox.
Yeah, I guess they haven't taken that one yet.
Remember when you saw the main entrance?
Why are you telling them?
I don't know.
You should be looking at me.
Remember when you saw the main entrance?
Well, here's the main entrance. And, well, it looks like this one's closed too. Well, oh well.
So we've been talking about his public persona. Tell me a little bit about his personal life at this point.
Well, he does have one. It's not much of a personal life. He's really focused on trying to make his name not only locally but nationally. He's trying to work his way up to the upper echelons of high society, as it were. But he does have a personal life. Remember back when we were talking about him being an optometrist?
Right.
When he was a doctor? Well, he gets married right around there. He's about 21 at the time. Gets married to a woman named Lillian. She's kind of an interesting character. She's an artist, she's a teacher, she's an accomplished pianist.
Pianist.
And they have a daughter 9 months later, Romola.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, and you would think that if you remember back to when he was a kid and he's really taking care of his family, he's making sure that they're, you know, paid for. And
right, his father struggled and he stepped up. Yeah.
For whatever reason, that does not translate to the family that he ends up choosing and creating for himself. He's kind of this absentee father and husband, to the point where Lillian tries to divorce him several times. But he always is doing that thing where he comes back in and he's like, come on, give me one more chance.
Oh, he's a persuasive guy,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's actually really sad that, I mean, he ends up being the father that he kind of detested growing up in some ways.
So I'm assuming at some point they do get divorced then.
They do end up getting divorced, yeah. They're married for about 20 years, and when they do get divorced, the judge actually forces Remus not only to pay them a significant amount of money every month or whatever, but also to set up a trust fund for Romola. He sets up a $30,000 trust fund. Now again, we're talking about money back then.
1920s,
right?
right?
$30,000, still a lot of money today, but way, way, way more back then. But interestingly, she doesn't almost even really need the money because she's a silent film star and radio star.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So as a child, she actually gets hired by L. Frank Baum himself. Now, if you don't know who that is,
I know who it is.
Yeah, the writer of Wizard of Oz wrote it right here in Chicago. In fact, based the Emerald City off of what he saw in Chicago.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chicago was actually the original Hollywood. A lot of the Hollywood movies and stage performances and things like that, even radio, were produced here in Chicago. So that's actually where she meets L. Frank Baum, and he hires her, and off they go.
And he actually hired her himself to play Dorothy, and they would sort of act out this silent movie on stage, and he would be doing all the narration on stage. And also playing the wizard himself. So she actually knew him personally. It's weird how many figures are in and out of these people's lives that are culturally significant, but it's also really fascinating. And what ends up happening is he ends up being really close with his daughter. Eventually they come back to the table and they sort of work it out. And in fact, he cares for her so much that sometime later, after he's in prison for bootlegging, which of course we'll get to.
Wait, how do we jump to him being in prison for bootlegging?
Yeah, we're actually way ahead of ourselves. In fact, Cincinnati's going to cover some of that. Right now, we're just kind of trying to establish that he does have a relationship with his daughter.
He actually ends up, or she rather, actually ends up being shaken down by one of the federal agents who put him in prison.
Okay.
And this guy goes to shake her down for jewelry and artwork and stuff. How and why, I have no idea.
In Chicago, when she's living in Chicago?
While she's living in Chicago, Remus is on like his last week of prison, like his last couple of days. And he's so distraught over this that he actually almost goes into a comatose state because he's so worried about what's going to happen to her if they get to her. And eventually this ends up being thwarted and it doesn't happen. But because of that, and because he has, even if he was forced to help take care of her, she actually stays really devoted to her father and helps him with legal fees and things like that as he gets older.
She still stays by his side through
No
it
matter
all.
what.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, very interesting.
Well, we can't get in here, so why don't we go back to the office and enjoy the speakeasy that we do have and can get into.
Yeah, I could definitely use a drink in a place that's not so loud or crowded. Let's get the hell out of here.
Hey, look. Mailbox.
Yeah, same one.
It's kind of a shame that everything was closed tonight.
Well, it is a pandemic. But what if it's not that it's a pandemic? What if all those places are being run as speakeasies right now, and that's why they're boarded up, just like they would have done in the 20s?
What if the mailbox was the entrance?
Join us next time on Cocktails with the King.